Okay, this is Jimmy Jive. You're listening to Motor City Rock Talk. Today, my guest is a legendary guitarist and vocalist from one of the best glam punk bands I think that's ever come out of Detroit from the 80s into the 90s, the Trash Brats. Today, my guest is the leader of that band, Ratt. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Right, I'm glad to finally be able to get a hold of you.
Yeah, man, I know I'm going so busy lately.
All right, let's start out with a little background. Can you tell me a little bit about where you're originally from and where the band started?
Yeah, I was born in Detroit. I grew up St. Clair Shores. I guess the early days of playing started with my neighbor Troy, who became a Trash Brat drummer later on as well. He lived across the street from me, and we got into music at a young age. Band Kiss is really the one that did it for us. But, all that stuff that we heard on the radio, Weird Kids and stuff. And I met Brian from Trash Brats in junior high, and we became friends then, and started playing a little bit here and there, and then got our first band going. We were still in high school. We started playing in the bars when we were just 16 years old.
What were some of the places you'd have been playing at 16?
First one was the good old Falcon Lounge on the east side.
Okay,
Yeah, Van Dyke and Outer Drive. And that's when we first got to see up-close bands like Deuce and Halloween when they were big.
Right.
Bands like that, that stuff was blowing our minds, being that young and seeing, that kind of band in a local setting, we were like, holy crap. It was like seeing a concert in a small club. So a lot of that stuff had influences on us for sure, especially in terms of, putting on stage shows and performance and having stage presence and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, a Falcon Lounge on the east side and then Blondie's on the west side. So thanks to Roosevelt for all in there at an early age. So basically the first band me and Brian had was called Asylum, and Asylum eventually kind of morphed into Brat, which Brat became Trash Brats. So that's kind of the timeline of that.
You mentioned Kiss. From most of your music style, I hear a lot of like the New York Dolls. Were they a big influence on you as far as that band?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like Kiss was more like when we were little kids, and later on, even once I started learning to play music, I still liked the music, but I really had no desire to write songs like Calling Dr. Love or Long Dr. I mean, I still enjoy Kiss. Yeah, I guess a lot of the punk stuff really became a huge influence that really gave us our direction. The New York Dolls, we discovered New York Dolls when we were about maybe 15, 16, and of course Ramones were a huge influence. We had an older friend of this guy that we met that turned us on to a ton of stuff at once, like Teenage Head and the Dictators, and the Heartbreakers. We knew the Dolls. We hadn't heard the Heartbreakers yet. Professionals, all those kind of like what you call like punk rock and roll bands,
right?
Say punk hardcore or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was kind of when we got turned on to all that at once. That kind of definitely had a huge influence where it was like, oh yeah, this is almost like the kind of style we were looking for,
Mm-hmm. Now, were you guys always kind of dressed up in the glam look? The times I saw you guys were always kind of had that swagger and that style. Was that something you grew into but always wanted to do, or how did that come about?
Like when we first started, when me and Brian had our first band, Asylum, we had the singer Dave Dunaway, who was the first guy we ever met that had like the dyed jet black hair and the like leather pants and the studded belts and stuff. That was more of like a hard rock metal band. So that was more like, you'd say we were starting to dress up in a glammy way, but it was more like Motley Crue or Alice Cooper or something like,
sure.
Almost more in that direction. And then the more we got into like the Dolls and things like that, it became more of what we called like the kind of like the thrift store store glam. So by the time we were Brat, we were dressing more, I guess you could say, like Dolls and things like that.
Where, if you can remember, do you remember where your first Trash Brats gig was? I mean, I remember seeing you guys at Reruns and Paychecks and Lily's.
Right on.
Do you remember where you guys would have played your first gig as the Trash Brats?
Yeah, because like I said, Brat became Trash Brats. Like when we were Brat, we were only a three-piece, and me and Brian were switching off on guitar and bass and vocals, a couple different drummers. And it was when Tony Romeo joined the band on bass and Brian became the singer. That's kind of when Brat became Trash Brats. And so kind of merged over. We did a few shows where we call ourselves, when we switched the name to Trash Brats, even before Tony joined. And I want to say maybe one of the first ones that era would maybe be the Falcon Lounge, or actually something, Falcon, or maybe even you mentioned reruns. I know
Yeah.
reruns an early one. And the first one with Tony, where we feel like that's really when the Trash Brat era started. The first one with Tony was at the old Bookies.
Oh, yeah, Bookies.
Yeah, Bookies had that second run in the 80s. I mean, we were too young to ever go there in the first run.
Sure.
But for a while, it was called the Alcove, and they went back to just calling it Bookies around, 86, 87.
Right.
So it was basically like 87-ish is really the start of the Trash Brats, per se, once Tony joined.
Like I said, I mentioned reruns. I'm pretty sure that's where I saw you the first time. I had some roommates that knew you guys, Brian Kirshner and Nolan Void. You know what that name
Right on.
I
was going to say, sorry, not to cut you off.
No.
Actually, Brian Kirshner, he's the one I was just talking about a few minutes back about the older friend that turned us on to all this band. It was Brian. So Small World.
Yeah, he was a roommate of mine.
Okay.
We lived over in Warrendale there off of Warren, and him and Nolan Void were my roommates for a while. And
great.
Jam with Nolan Void and Elizabeth Postman. And yeah, Brian turned me on to a whole bunch of stuff. And I know he used to come hang out with you guys, and so did his good friend Dave Levesque.
Yep, I know Dave as well too, through Brian.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, Small World. Yeah, so we were running in similar circles, it sounds like. We met Brian in, it was the fall of 1984, I remember. That's when we met Brian. But he was a huge influence on us for, he gave us this one compilation tape that he made with like a lot of those bands I mentioned, and that really set us down our path. So we've always been grateful, to him.
Yeah, I knew he did a lot of freelance writing for some magazines and stuff. So he was really in touch with that whole world before a lot of us even knew it existed.
Yeah, he was, one of our best friends over there on the west side, because we're all like the east side.
Yeah, I knew you were east side. It's pretty much the only place you play anymore is the east side.
East side, the west side those days, there was not many. I mean, there was a few clubs, but like we mentioned, reruns. Reruns was a lot of fun, but it wasn't around for too long.
No, you're right. Did you guys ever play like the Studio Lounge or the Token Lounge, those places?
Never made it to the studio. Token, we played a few times. We played Blondies more, like a lot of bands. We played Blondies more, but Token, even one of the first times that we were in there, we used to have a crazy crowd and and so one of the first times we headlined the Token, a bunch of our people got in fights. Huge fight with the bouncers, and we were kicked out of there for a while, that kind of stuff. But honestly, we really never played the West Side that much. It's because the height of the Trash Brats, we were playing places like St. Andrews,
yes,
and the Ritz and Paychecks and Harpo's, and they're all kind of like Hamtramck downtown and east side. Yeah, but Blondies, I mean, we had a lot of fun at Blondies like most people did. But other than that, occasional one-off oddball shows or parties or something. We never really played the West Side too much.
Well, you probably didn't have to because you had so much success over there.
Right.
Everybody knew you. Everybody still knows you. You've been one of the most request bands that I've had to get on this show. That's why I've been trying to get you. Everybody's saying, when are you going to get Ricky? When are you going to get Ricky? I'm like, he's a busy guy, and he's got a lot of shit going on and that stuff. I'm just waiting.
It's always good to hear.
Yeah. So let's get a little bit into the first album you guys put out. Trash Brats. When was that recorded? That's somewhere, obviously, in the 80s, mid 80s, late 80s.
Yeah, like we pretty much the first thing we actually put out was a self-release album or tape. It's referred to as the Pink Tape in Trash Brats. Really now. That's got some early versions of songs that ended up on our official first record. And that first album came out at the end of 1990, but those songs, we've been playing them live for a few years, so everybody kind of knew the songs. And we recorded that, speaking of West Side, we recorded that at Tempermill. Dave Feeney, when he originally had his Tempermill in his parents' basement in Livonia. So all the basic tracks were done there, and then I remember we finished it up. He had moved into his new building in Ferndale by that point.
Right.
So yeah, that came out end of 90, and like I said, none of the songs were really new. Like we were playing around for so long for those few years that our crowd pretty much knew all those songs.
Sure.
And like I said, we had a couple early versions, of some of those songs too. So, but yeah, that's when that album came out, like right at the end of 1990.
That's interesting you mentioned Dave Feeney, because a lot of people that I've talked to from the East Side had recorded with him, including Elvis Hitler, the Junk Monkeys, their second album they recorded with him. Not in his basement studio, but when he had the one in Ferndale. And of course, I knew him from the Orange Roughies, and Snake Out, obviously. And he did some top-notch work from what I'm hearing. I mean, you're recording here. This album is phenomenal, especially for its time, and probably the type of equipment that he'd have been using in those days.
But I think Dave just really understood. He was Hysteric Narcotics, Orange Roughies, and musician himself. I don't know. I think he just really understood. Because it's not like any of our bands are exactly the same style. Like say Elvis Hitler or Trash Brats, but he was great. A great guy to work with, and I think he captured everyone exactly like how they are and how they're supposed to be. I don't even know how to word that, but totally. Like Dave worked with so many of us from that era.
I'm just wondering, because I've known some bands that worked with certain studios and all that commented that the best studios were the ones where they had the producers that weren't afraid to step in and say, all right, that's not good enough. You can do better. Was he ever like that with you guys, in the sense of like, that's a good take, but I think you should do this or add this, that kind of thing to your songs? Or...
I could barely remember.
Okay, that's
so long. And I know that even, there's been, on all of our albums, there's been always like a few different people that have like engineered or done stuff at different times. So it's always kind of hard to remember some of the details going back, because it's hard to think, but that's already, over 30 years ago.
Believe me, I know. A lot of things. You've moved on to a lot of things since then. Did you guys ever shop it around any of the labels? Were you shopping the material in the early days?
Well, in the early days, we didn't even know, we might have sent some stuff out on our own, but it was almost like you already had to have connections to someone bigger. And we were always more like punk underground. So instead of waiting for major label or support or even a booking agent, we started just booking tours ourselves. And, you would connect with like-minded bands and cities, and it's kind of like you trade off shows, and kind of like that whole underground thing that really started kind of from like the hardcore era. And then that scene of Maximum Rock and Roll, they would put out this like special edition every year. It was called Book Your Own Fucking Life. It would list places, that you could book, or, cheap places to stay, and the record stores in the cities, and they drop your music off. So we started doing that right out of the gate, like in 87, 88. We were like going to, Cincinnati and Indianapolis and Bloomington, Indiana. We just started. We said, hell with it. We're not gonna wait on anything. So we started doing everything ourselves. And so all the following that we built up, that was us. We had nobody helping us, really. It wasn't until a few years into the 90s that we had a manager for a while. This guy, Ron Geddes, he used to manage Bittersweet Alley and Toby Red, some of those bands. And he got us to like every label, and he really tried hard for us. But by that point, this is like 92 or so, our image was completely wrong. People were lumping us as a hair band. Everybody was, wanting grunge, alternative, flannel shirt bands. And so it's almost like the label people weren't even listening to the songs. They were just like, oh no, this is a glam band. So that's the closest we ever had to where somebody was trying to like shop us, so to speak. But no, we never really, we don't know what that life was like, even for like one album on a major, to go out on a tour like that, or major labels take out dinner, and the stories you hear, it's like we had none of that. Everything we got was pretty much from ourselves,
Did you guys ever go out to the West Coast at all, or play out there?
We did a bunch of full tours across the states that we, for the most part, booked ourselves. We did a ton in the Midwest to start, because Midwest is close. But we finally made it out to LA and Hollywood and all that. Fall of 93, we finally made it all the way out there. We played some of those Sunset Strip clubs just to play them and see it. And then we saw what a bunch of bullshit most of it was. We went back into our more normal scene, and we found, the punk clubs, the good punk clubs to play out there and stuff. And that's when we would go back out there. We would play, places like Al's Bar and the Garage. And places. We just stayed away from, because the strip acting was already like pay to play and all kinds of crazy shit. But we, through the 90s, toured a lot. We did a lot of weekenders, a lot of like 1 weekers, and then usually about once a year we do like full on like each tour with a lot of dates.
Now, did you, when you booked these tours, did you go out with anybody else, or did you just go out on your own?
We went out on our own. One time we went out with a friend of ours, Jeff Dow, who's, you know, a legendary punk rock and roller underground, I guess you could say. Guy that, you know, he's really well known in that scene, and, you know, he used to tour Europe a lot and everything. And one year we did, I think it's only about 10 dates maybe. We did it together where it was the Jeff Dow band and the Trash Brats, played a bunch together, and that was a ton of fun. But no, it was always on our own, and very seldom had maybe one time we had this one gal who was a booker that helped us, but it was literally like, you know, me on the phone, sending out promo packs. You know, it's all that pre-internet days of, you know, you call and you finally get a hold of someone at a club, and they tell you, okay, send this, you know, send your stuff out to this person, and you send it out, and you wait to hear back. It really was a lot of work.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was, especially if you're doing it all yourself. Speaking of outstate clubs, what about CBGBs? You guys seem like you'd have fit in there. Did you play at that club?
You know, funny enough, we never even played there. We played New York a ton of times, mostly the Continental, which was kind of like becoming the CBGBs of like the 90s. Like, because by the time of the 90s, CBGBs was more like what we call it, almost like a tourist trap. Every band wanted to play there. You'd be on a bill with like 7 bands. None of them would be of even the same style. You would get paid. And so that's what kind of kept us from it. It was like, oh, do we really want to play on a Monday night with, you know, these 6 death metal bands or whatever? Yeah. So, you know, we could go play like a Continental, have a good crowd, play with like-minded bands, actually make money. So, yeah, I mean, we wanted to play CBGBs just to say, hey, yeah, we played CBGBs, but then it never came up that time. But we had a lot of shows in New York, of course. Like, New York in the 90s had a really, really, really good scene still.
Yeah, of course. And so you guys never did go overseas. Like you mentioned that one guy that did that short trip. You guys never went overseas at all?
We actually did once.
Oh, really?
In 1996, we went to Germany. There was a guy over there who did a fanzine and was big in the punk scene, and he was a huge fan. He said, yeah, you know, I want you guys to come over. I'll take care of you guys. And it was originally almost like a one-off show that he was putting on. Connected up with a few other friends, and we ended up doing like, I wouldn't really call it a huge tour or anything, but we did, you know, maybe 5-6 shows.
Cool. All in Germany?
All in Germany. It was great. And we were going to go back. And we didn't know it the first time we flew over, but Brian, our singer, has, you know, huge phobia of flying.
Oh,
and he didn't even know that when he went through it the first time. So that kind of dampened any plans on that, because, it's long flights to Europe. So I really didn't start getting into Europe, and I started playing with my friend Kevin Kay over there a lot. And that's when I started doing a lot of touring in Europe. But yeah, Trash Brats got over there just one time, which is, you know, it's too bad we could have done it more, because I think we would have definitely gotten more and more popular.
Did you get a good reception when you were over there at that time?
Yeah. You know, we had a lot of fans. They're all over, you know, the place, you know, especially in like Italy and Germany and France and, you know, all over the world, really.
That's awesome.
And, I mean, it would have been great if we could have done more over there. Right. I guess it just wasn't meant to be at that point.
The second album, let's see here, Out of the Closet.
Actually, the second one would be Jokes on You.
Well, which one was Out of the Closet?
Out of the Closet would be the third one that comes out.
Third one. I'm on Spotify. This is where I've been listening to all your stuff here.
Oh yeah, Jokes on You's not in the streaming program.
No, and I probably would have remembered that back in the day, but it kept the mind. Were those both recorded here with Feeney also, or did you record them somewhere else?
Both of those, the main tracks were all done at the White Room.
Oh, the White Room, okay.
Yeah, downtown Detroit, where a lot of people were starting to go at that time.
Sure.
Out of the Closet was finished up and mixed by Mike Clark, who, you know, we've worked with a lot through the years, and he's one of our favorite people to work with. He was one that would always push us, like you were talking about Feeney, asking if Feeney like had suggestions and stuff. Mikey Clark was awesome to work with in that sense, because he would just straight out tell you like if something sucked or or if something was great, like that's awesome. Like
you want a producer that's going to be willing to do that. I would think that's not just going to kiss your ass and take your money, because I mean you're there to get the best product, and if they've got any kind of knowledge and input, you know, and you're willing to take it, at least try it. I think it's always worthwhile.
It's a weird thing, because a lot of times more like people are paying to go into a studio, and then you're just really the studio person is being more of an engineer,
exactly,
versus a producer. And again, so we never really had, you know, we weren't like on a major label. We never really had something where we really worked with producers per se. It's almost like working with people that were engineering but kind of producing, because it's almost like it's like you let them know, like, yeah, we want your opinion, or yeah, like you said, push us to the next level a little bit here. You have to have somebody you really trust.
Right, exactly. That's very important.
Yeah, that understands maybe what you're trying to do too, so they're not just trying to change stuff because they want to put their stamp on it
and lump you in with other bands they've done, to fill their quota, so to speak. So the Trash Brats, are they officially defunct? I mean, I know you're doing the East Side Alive thing, and that's pretty much, I see you playing and doing it under that guise. Now, do the Trash Brats themselves do any shows anymore under that name?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say we're not like really broken up per se, but we're not really like we're ever going to really pursue a lot of stuff. But we did our first reunion show. Already that's a long ago now. We did our first reunion show back in 2008.
Oh,
God,
wow.
that's a long time ago already,
Yeah.
talking reunions. We were doing them like once a year or like once every couple years. The last one we did was that kind of a celebration for Out of the Closet coming out on vinyl for the first time. That was back in 2018 at Smalls. Of course, the COVID years came in and all of that kind of stuff. But so yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're going to do another one up the road here. There's no set plans yet.
Right.
The little like kind of reunion shows are just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's an event. A lot of people come out that don't really go out to shows anymore. And, of course, we would want to try to just, get back into it. There's no point. Times are different. And so, you play once every 2 years. It's a special event. So, of course, it's going to be packed or sold out or whatever. And good crowd and, everything's great. Yeah, I can't see us ever doing a lot of things again unless, something happens magically. Like, there's some promoter in Europe like, yeah, I'll give you guys all this money to play festivals or, that kind of stuff always, is always good to think about and it can happen.
The other thing, and you had mentioned it a little while ago about that reunion show and whatnot, and then of course the pandemic coming up. You had done during the pandemic something I thought that was incredible and awesome. When you were online, I want to say almost every day or every other day with your acoustic guitar, doing like songs for people to kind of connect with people, to kind of bring them out of that. What made you decide to do that? How'd that start?
Well, what happened was, again, I had a couple friends I saw online doing it. One of them was my good friend Lester over in Italy, and because remember they were out first over there when everyone was getting locked down. And I remember he even called it like quarantine songs. He just kind of put his phone on video, it was acoustic, and he'd be playing some songs.
Right.
So it's like, oh, that's kind of cool, and so I thought about doing that, and my roommate, friend at the time, Jim, who does I-94 recordings, who just did the Brats debut album on vinyl, some other things. Jim's like, yeah, I can video you, that way, you can kind of just set up and play and whatever. One day turned into 2, into 3, then I was basically exhausting songs I knew, learning songs.
Yeah, you would take the request for a while there.
Yeah, and then Jim even suggested, you should put up, one of those like virtual tip jars that, point like other people doing stuff online. And first I felt funny doing that, and he was kind of like, well, no, people are enjoying this, and, you can't gig right now, you're out of work too. And so I put up, I felt weird doing it at first, but I put up the vertical tip jar, and people were more than gracious. I got so much encouragement where people were like, man, this is really helping me out through these weird times, and keep going, and, any songs by so-and-so, and then it became like I didn't want to miss a day. It was almost like marathon, like, all right, I'm on day 55 and then day 60, and it was just good for me because it kept me playing, it kept me sane, and I just got so many good words from people that were saying how much it was helping them through those weird times.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I ended up going like something like 165 or something in a row before I finally missed like a day.
Yeah, I know, because it was like I used to check in every day with that. I put in a few requests. I'm a big T-Rex fan, and recommended a few T-Rex tunes, which I know you did somewhere down the line. I mentioned Brian earlier and stuff. He and Nolan went and saw you perform ball at somebody's house. You were in his room, and you guys had acoustic guitars out playing and stuff. He was telling me it really great time. They had a blast seeing you do that. And it was reminiscent of what you were doing during the pandemic as far as that, especially with the acoustic.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it was good for me too because I was learning songs. Like some people probably thought, geez, this guy knows a lot of songs. But the way that was set up, like, you know, of course it looked like, you know, people could, you know, go online, they'd see me, oh, there it is, there's Ricky's song of the day at like noon every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, what I would do is I would stockpile songs.
Sure,
like,
yeah, pretty cool.
My roommate Jim would like, you know, we'd film 3 or 4 songs in an evening. And then that would give me songs to post for the next few days while I learned new songs. So it was like this, it was like boom, boom, boom. It really kept me busy, you know, like, especially when I was like, you know, and Jim was encouraging me, like, you know, come on, you can't miss a day.
Yeah, and it was really cool because the scenario you were in, sitting on the couch table, a candle or two, and cool stuff on the walls and stuff that really created a great atmosphere for what you were doing. And I think a lot of people dug that too. I know I did, because it wasn't like you were just sitting on a chair down in the basement, you know, with 4 walls. It almost looked like you were putting on a show, which in a way you were. And have you ever, as far as something like that, because you're talking about people connected with the internet, YouTube, any of your shows, as far as like East Side Still Alive, ever considered doing one of those like as a live broadcast? You know, like Wheels used to do those over-the-air radio broadcasts.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever thought of doing something like that?
You know, I guess we really haven't. I mean, there was more thought to that backwards during like you know, pandemic and shutdowns, you know, because people could go out and see it. I mean, never rule that stuff out. Even like when me and Brian play acoustic, we do some acoustic shows together, and I even that would be good because, you know, that way people that are Brats fans around the world see me and him at least sitting down acoustic playing some of those songs, you know.
Yeah.
You know, never rule any of that stuff out because technology now, as we all know, you can live stream all kinds of stuff and it's good quality, and you know,
and it gets all around the world, like you're saying. It's not limited to local.
Yeah, you know, it's just weird because the live music thing is such a changing thing now, and for a lot of the old type of whatever punk rock and roll, whatever you want to call it, that a lot of us play, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of younger crowd coming into that, and then our crowd's all older.
Right.
So again, only so many people go out, which makes sense, or can only go out so much. We're out in it because, you know, that's what we do, we play. But yeah, again, that's the way to reach people is, you know, in the virtual way, I guess, you know, as much as it's like we missed the days of, you're at St. Andrews Hall in front of, you know, 800 people or whatever. It's a different thing these days.
I noticed also, at least within the last year or so, you've been playing a lot of these shows with Mike Skill, the Romantics.
Yeah.
Have you known him for a while, or how did it come about when you were playing with him and doing stuff like that?
Yeah. I can't remember when I first met Mike. I mean, it was probably, you know, way back in the 90s somewhere, you know. I mean, we were like all Brats and all of our, you know, a lot of our friends, people from that era, we were huge Romantics fans. That goes without saying, right? You know, And so, you know, became friends with them, which was, you know, I always thought that was cool, just like meeting those guys and becoming like friends. And then I'm trying to remember what year, like, you know, a few years back now, where me and Mike were in touch, and he was just saying, hey, you know, like try playing with me, you know, I'm going to record some solo stuff and maybe put some guitar on it. And, so then as the Romantics weren't playing as much, and the same thing, the pandemic came in, I started playing together, and it was kind of almost like he was starting to kind of form a solo band, not really set members yet. It was kind of like he was for sure going to have, you know, Brad Elvis, you know, from Romantic with him. And finally, just recently, I would say in the last year, it seems like we kind of, you know, it's like morphing into like, I guess, more of a solid one band. I mean, it's been amazing for me to be able to play with Mike, because that, again, like when you're young and you have these like rock and roll heroes and people that you look up to, it's like someone said, you'll be playing with, you know, some Romantics guys or something. I would have been like, whoa, you're kidding me, you know.
Town, you guys seem to get together and do a show.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Awesome.
I mean, he's kind of just still, seems like he's kind of just, you know, getting his feet wet a little bit with being a solo guy. And I know how that is, because, you know, I wasn't used to it myself. Once I kind of went and did solo things, it's kind of weird after you're in a band for all those years. But I think we're a good combination together. The last lineup that I've done some shows with was Mike, myself, Brad on drums, and Brian, Trash Brats Brian on bass and vocals. So I think it's a great band, and hopefully we can do a lot more stuff this year.
Are you doing any original material as far as that, or going to have any kind of release?
Well, for right now, the set is kind of a combination of Mike's some of his newest solo stuff, some romantic stuff, a couple covers. So it's kind of like a good combination, I think. If people come out to see the Mike Skill Band, they get a good combination of songs. You know what I mean? But nothing where like this band itself is like point of we, wrote anything or anything together.
Right.
But yeah, who knows what the future can bring for this, and I'm hoping we could do a lot more shows together because I think it's a great band together.
It is,
yeah.
But I've seen the videos and all that. You guys are real tight, real solid, very entertaining, very cool.
Thank you.
Now,
we had a great show, Rhythm called St. Andrews.
I
a few
missed
months
that.
back, and I had played St. Andrews in years, and it was a sold out show, and it felt awesome.
That was part of that Wheels 2023 record release party, wasn't it? I was at the night before.
At Cadu.
At the Cadu, yeah. I was
Right.
there that night and saw that, and I meant to go out the next night, but something came up. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, because there's quite a few bands from Trash Brats era and all that, including the Junk Monkeys, were on a cable show back then called, I think it was called Bandin. You remember that? You guys ever on any of those kind of shows?
We were on one, I remember one called Five Moving, or Keep Moving On, or Keep On Moving. I remember that one, because we still have video footage of it, but the one you just mentioned doesn't ring a bell.
There's several bands on there, like I said, the Junk Monkeys, 3D Invisibles, quite a few bands from that time that seemed to be, and they were almost all filmed at Paychecks. And that's why I was wondering if you had done it, because I know you guys played Paychecks quite a bit.
Paychecks was a huge one for us. That was like one of the first clubs that Trash Brats when we saw we were actually bringing in a crowd beyond like our friends or girlfriends,
Mm-hmm.
That's the first bar we really packed it out. And yeah, we played with all those bands as we were starting, especially when we were Ratt, when we Trash Brats,
Right.
these kids coming up, and we really, we were playing with Junk Monkeys when they were Mystery Girls,
Yeah.
and 3D Invisibles, and Zombie Surfers, and Snake Out, and all those bands.
Yeah, that was such a great time, man.
That was a great era. I mean, we were, like I said, we were the ones that were still kind of like the high school kids coming into it, and everybody was really cool to us, and we were, really fortunate to be able to like open for those bands that already had established followings. We were able to play in front of a lot of people,
But you guys really pushed the envelope, I remember in those days and stuff, and everybody always talked about it and stuff and said, wow, they put on such a great show, very entertaining, very energetic and all that. You guys weren't just standing up there playing your instruments like so many other bands. You guys were getting into it and showed your love for music. And those were the type of bands I always dug the most. That's why I always dug you guys. And I'm sure, maybe not you, but I know because of Brian being my roommate, we used to go to parties all the time over there at the house in Warrendale and Granville, and had bands come over there for after parties. And I know at least your drummer, who was I think pretty good friends also with Brian, used to come over from time to time and sit down there and jam, because we'd throw people together. I don't know if you remember the Happy Accidents.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Pauline House.
Right.
I worked with him, and his band used to come over there. And several bands that we played out with in the same scene at Reruns and Hamtramck Pub used to all come over there. Hell, we had a stage built in the basement. We had stage.
Because I don't really remember that place. Like, what years did you guys live there? Maybe that was before we knew Brian.
Late 80s, definitely late 80s.
Oh no. Shit. I guess I'm sure we have been over there at some point then, because I was thinking maybe it was early 80s.
No. It was definitely late 80s, 88, 89, 90, somewhere over there.
Oh, right. Well, we were definitely all over there at some point.
Yeah.
Like my brain's just a little, how that goes. Brain is fried in spots. Because I remember a couple of Brian's places there on the west side, but one of them was, I think, in Dearborn. I don't really remember this. You said this one was in Warrendale.
Yeah, Warrendale was just off site of Dearborn. There was a club that was just down the street, right down at the end of the block there, called, originally it was called the Student Body Lounge, and then it became Walsh's on the Border.
Oh, right. Well, I can't remember that. Yeah, I'm familiar with Warrendale because my grandparents moved there. They were from Southwest Detroit.
Right.
They moved there and they lived on Warren and St. Mary's and Warren.
Closer up to Southfield, I think.
Yeah, it's
we were
between
close to Outer Drive.
Greenfield and Southfield or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm sure we were all there definitely though, because if you're saying late 80s, I'm like, oh yeah, Brian T. And for sure we had been over there. Sometimes my memory's really good on a lot of things.
Yeah, I know.
Other things.
I know. I totally understand, man. I'm 62 years old, so it's like every day it's a challenge just to remember to get up in the morning,
But it's great that you do the show and you have people come out and tell stories, because man, as we all know, Detroit has just what an amazing music history of all eras.
It is.
It's good to get people telling the stories while we're still here.
Yeah, that was the whole point of it, kind of a nostalgic walk down memory lane, and especially for that time for me, because being part of the scene and going to all those clubs and all that. And you had mentioned our people in our age group not going out late anymore. Hell, back in the day, that's when we went out. Hell, I didn't even leave to go to a club before 10 o'clock,
Right.
And
it's completely opposite now.
Exactly.
I mean, I see it even at nights I'm not playing. I work some nights over at the Tattoo Cafe over here on the east side.
Right.
And so, it's cool because I'm still around music, even when I'm not playing. And I just see it there, even like all the shows, there's no like late night shows anymore.
Right.
It's like, you say you're starting at 8 or 8:30 and people are coming to see you, they really will be there because it's an older crowd.
Right.
And
they're leaving at 10 o'clock.
I see it now, with us doing our, East Side Still Live, which is more like cover band type thing. We do 3 sets, a lot of places. And yeah, sure enough, by that third set, man, most places, people, no one's hanging around.
Right. It's not like the old days.
Old days, it was, you barely left the house by 10:30.
Yeah.
That's maybe the first of the 3 bands.
Right.
Now, things are wrapping up in bars at 10:30, 11 o'clock. But in a weird way, though, it's perfect for all of us because we're older anyway. But waiting to see, like, I don't want to be that old guy in the hill or anything, but I'm like, where are all the young rock people going? Because I'm sure there's spots and some of us just aren't seeing it. Yeah, it's not like all of us when you close the bar and then some.
Right. There's some different clubs, obviously, like District 142, Smuggler, some of those over, Wyandotte area and stuff that are drawing some of the younger people in there. But so many of those old clubs are just gone. They're just shut down. The whole scene is over with and stuff, which is such a shame because, like you said, that was such a great time. And there are a lot of people out there, like I was mentioning, people that were prompting me to get you on the show, that are very nostalgic about that time and love those bands and still love that music. It's hard to lose that as you get older because you want to remember the good times, the good bands that you heard, and all the times.
That's why for our era, that's why a lot of bands like these reunion type shows or things like you were talking about, like the Wheels or whatever, like album party, like where you get like 4 of the old bands, whatever. It makes sense. That's what draws people. And I haven't really seen any young bands that really draw a lot of people or have like the hype. Like, our old days, there was always like some new band or 2 coming up that's like, whoa, they have the following now. Whoa, they're getting the hype. I don't really see that. I think the scenes are just different now.
Well, Ricky, I'm going to let you go. It's been great finally getting to talk to you and all that. And,
man, thanks. I'm sorry it took so long.
No, man. Like I was telling everybody, I'm like, going, this man is busy. I go, I got to give him props, man, to still be out there doing it through all these years, moving equipment, setting up and doing that, playing late nights or even to play till 10:30 because, I'm usually in bed by 11 now. It is amazing to me that you're still doing that. And I look forward to seeing you guys sometime in the spring or whatever come out. I don't get out as much as I used to either. That's why I mentioned the Token Lounge or the West Side because I'm obviously on the West Side.
Yeah, but probably the closest we get, which is even West Side, would be somewhere in the middle, like Smalls and Hamtramck.
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah,
I think I'll put that plug in early. The East Side Still Live. We're playing on Punchki Day at Smalls. So that's a good one for people that, if they want to take the day off work and, have one of those daytime drinking, eating days. It's going to be a good one. That'll be a good fun one.
The other thing is, you normally try and book your shows strictly on the weekends because you're talking about people that our age aren't coming out that much anymore, let alone on work nights. So your show's pretty much Friday, Saturday, that kind of thing?
Yeah, the thing is that I guess you could say the circuit we kind of play on more now, which is like I say, more of a cover band type of thing. A lot of the bars, they might be stuff on, say, maybe Thursdays or something, but the bars themselves aren't doing much during the week anyway, so sometimes acoustic stuff or whatever. So it's usually a weekend thing,
Well, anyway, like I said, I'm going to let you go, man, and thanks a lot for getting together with me and talking and all that. And,
well, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the patience of waiting for us to finally get together here.
No problem, man. It was definitely worth the wait. I enjoyed talking, enjoyed the stories, and wish you the best of luck. And see you, Mike. Tell him I said, hey. All right, man. Well, you take care, man. Have a good day.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. I'll talk to you later.
All right, brother. Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, this is Jimmy Job. You've been listening to Motor City Rock Talk. Today my guest was Ricky Ratt of Trash Brats. Is currently playing with the group Eastside, still alive, and they definitely are. So as I like to say, keep rocking.
Just a little time.